A tip for the future. If you want your thumbnail to be you smiling and laughing, make stupid faces at yourself while it's waiting to take that picture. Oh, God. So, a little bit of a derail today and tomorrow, I guess. Golly gee. Can't seem to get anything to work out for me. So, you know how I sometimes joke that, yeah, well, anyway. When I get on, like, at work, there's this thing where I've sort of started to say, wow, I can't get this worked out for the life of me. So if you've ever had a dog, you know that if the dog is in the room and you want to ask somebody else if the dog needs to go for a walk, you don't spell it, you don't say it, you spell it. It's WALK. So the dog doesn't freak out thinking it's going for a walk unless you absolutely need to take it. Well, at work, we have a similar problem with the word BREAK. You want to take your break? Of course, as soon as anybody says that, you're going to have 7 to 12 customers immediately need something. So you're not going to be able to take your break. So we don't say that word out loud because it means that you're not going to be able to do it. Well, apparently there's a similar pattern with me saying that I'm going to be working on a project or I'll be back tomorrow at a set time. Because as soon as I say that, the next time I'm working, guess what I have to do? I have to stay late. And when I talk about working on something, guess what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to stay late tomorrow night. Cool. So that's where we are today. But I will also say that I secured one of the most prized substances known to man today. Toilet paper. We had a case come in, and enough people had stopped looking the other day that it lasted long enough on the shelf for me to find out about it and squirrel away a 4-pack so that I have some that I need. So I'm roughly set, I think, at this point for a while. I've got the foods I need. I've got the toilet paper. I've got the soap and the cleaners. I got some materials I can do projects with here for the Roving Jack channel. I think what I'd like to try to do, I'm not going to get a lot of time to do anything tonight or tomorrow, but I'd like to see if I could set up a dry run of doing an overhead shot. I don't know that I can pull that off. It's going to be tricky as all get out. I don't know how I'm going to make that work in the next day or two. The reason I want to try to achieve this is while I have the chance, I want to see if I can figure out if there's anything I need from a hardware store to make it work. Because if there is, then I should get it while we still can. Because I mean, one of the things going on right now is what was it? Somebody just posted something on here. Some news about how our state is handling it all is, okay, governor declines executive counselor's request that he issue a stay-at-home order. So there's no stay-at-home order, and the governor of the state, of the area, so Governor Sununu says such an order is not a practical ask for folks. Well, that's super cool of him to say that. Sounds like very reasonable thinking, except for the fact that if you don't issue a stay-at-home order, nobody's going to stay at home because businesses are going to keep trying to run because they know they can get away with keeping and running because there are people out to purchase things. So everybody's going to be out and about. And if everybody's out and about, we're not going to slow the infection spread. So, and like, it doesn't matter that he just may change his mind later when we're talking about the fact that, like, by the end of this week, this is an exponential growth curve. So by the end of this week, it'll be substantially enough of a worse situation that it's too late to put that stopper in the bottle by then. So I want to see what the stats are for our state right now. Okay, so oh yeah, there was that wonderful story recently. There was a local bus between cities. We have two big cities in the southern half of the state, and we have a bus service that runs between them that you can buy a ticket for. It's like a Greyhound bus. It's not like a it's not actually Greyhound, but it's a similar type service, and it's specifically for within New Hampshire and from New Hampshire down to Boston. And that service, apparently there was somebody who has tested positive who rode 4 times on that bus service. It's just so right now we're up in triple digits by now. We have 140-ish. That's probably changed by now, but coronavirus update. New Hampshire cases, 137. State faces ventilator shortage. And they've converted a few of these college gymnasiums into emergency hospital service places. So 29 new positive test results for COVID-19 for today. So we're getting 29 cases per day today as of 5:45 p.m. And total cases right now are 137 in the state. The jump in cases is in part a reflection of additional testing capabilities, as private companies including LabCorp and Quest are now testing in the state. 19 people have required hospitalization, including 6 of the new cases. To date, there has been a single death attributed to COVID-19 in our state. But those numbers have gone up at an exponential rate, pretty much. So we're looking at the rate doubling on a regular basis. So some of the numbers you'll see in some of the stuff going on out there are like every 2 days doubling, and then you get every 1.3 days doubling, and then it just gets, the window for how frequently it doubles gets tighter. I think New York is starting to curb some of that, but we're not. I think it's nice that we've set up the emergency hospital overflow. Well, the numbers. This is sort of a sticky wicket for me. I've gotten into some arguments with some people in some of the futurist community. There are people in other countries, and one of them is a Russian, and he's so anti-American, and Sorry about that. It's a terrible phrase. Okay, signal loss. Great, cool, awesome. Anyway, so he's so into himself that he's like, you Western countries should learn from us Russians because we're doing it the right way. And he's like, see, we have barely any cases at all, like 10 cases the day he said it in his country. And I'm like, yeah, it's just getting into your country. What's your point? Like, we didn't have a case when Italy was hitting its hardcore moments. So yeah, you're on a slightly different time scale. And he goes, no, it's because we're more proactive and better prepared to handle these types of situations. And I'm like, you don't think that your country is possibly fudging some of the numbers just like every other country has been doing? Italy right now is not testing individuals who are in complete respiratory arrest for it. Like, we know they're dying from it, so we don't need to test them for it. And so they're not reporting those numbers. Of course, your numbers are now no longer trustworthy. And by the same token, in the US here, if you have symptoms, but you're not bad enough to stay in the hospital overnight, in many cases, they won't test you. And so your number doesn't get counted. It's only once you're staying in the hospital that they test in many cases. And if they're testing you in those cases, then you get confirmed as getting it. And so when we're seeing numbers of a very high death rate in the United States, in comparison to the number of people who have tested positive, some estimates are that the mortality rate should be about 1.3 to maybe at max a 3 point something. But we're seeing some numbers that suggest something on the order of 5 or higher. And some of that in some areas of the US, I'm not saying all spaces, and I think Spain is a similar problem. Those numbers are skewed by not testing people who aren't requiring emergency overstays. So it's throwing a lot of things off. And by the same token, like, there was debate on the forums that I was talking on about whether or not somebody else said it. I didn't say it, but somebody else said to the Russian on the forum that, okay, so you're saying your rates of contracting the COVID-19 virus are suggesting that you're not going through the same oh God, I can't remember it now. The exponential growth. There you go. You're not undergoing the same exponential growth. Just out of curiosity, how many people have contracted an unusually aggressive regular flu? And they're like, oh, no, that's only happening in the Ukraine. Come on, dude. Seriously? Yes, they've made it political. Somehow they've made this political. The reporting of the deaths and how everybody's handling it, everybody's posturing to make sure it looks like they're handling it better than they are. And it's stupid. It's just stupid. And so one of the other things that is, and I have basically just said that. I've said it on the forum. I think it's arrogant and stupid and people being preposterous about this crap at this point. You can't just keep pretending that you can fake numbers and be a legitimate analysis of the situation. It's stupid. But anyway, so the other thing that's really on a lot of people's radar is looking at the numbers as they've occurred over the last few days. The growth rate in the United States seems to be growing faster than something like Italy or Spain did. So what we have here is CNN is reporting more than 200 CV-19 deaths in the US for the day. And they're saying that's pretty high. But some of that may be more testing getting done at that level now than were before. So we're getting more sense of that's happening. So we mean it may be skewing those results slightly. But we're also completely aware of the fact that each of these things, both the how many people get it and how many people die from it, are on exponential curves. And so within a few days, instead of being like 20 some odd cases a day in a region, you can easily see hundreds a day. So we're right now at 200 CV-19 deaths in the US. Is that the total US? It's hard to say. Okay, so current US cases. US has 11,204 cases confirmed and 146 deaths. Spain has 7,457 cases and 656 deaths. So some of those numbers aren't looking the same on the same patterns. Italy has 5,210 cases and 683 deaths. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to know what the case is, and you're looking at a rapid doubling on a regular basis. So okay, so the Worldometer's website says the US has had 247 deaths for the day. And now the total exceeds 1,000 deaths for the day. Or not for the day. Total deaths are in excess of 1,000. So like right now, even if you look at that data and you go and you look at a typical year for the flu, it's easy to be misleading and saying an annual flu would be, what was the number? I had that earlier. Dang it. I had that looked up earlier. It was a total number in the US for contracting the flu was oftentimes, the last few years have been actually pretty high. In some cases, if you go back about 5 years, the lowest I think it's ever been is people who contract the flu, total number was, I think it was like 3 million. Let me see if I can pull that up again. It's a statistic I was able to pull up a little while ago. And it's very interesting to see how that compares to what we're currently facing. Okay, I don't think that's the page. Nope. Next one. So the number of deaths per year from the flu in the United States is still pretty rather aggressive. And we're not there yet. But with an exponential growth pattern like we have right now, that can happen in a heartbeat. The doubling per day situation is not a kind thing. So do I have this here or what? Come on. Where is the data that I posted on here the other day? There we go. Okay, so as of March 20th, just 5 short days ago, the worldwide coronavirus cases was 276,000, and worldwide deaths were 11,400. So what is it now? Numbers. Oh, for pity's sake, just give me the data. So world cases right now are 468,644 and 21,000 deaths. So from 11,000 to 21,000 in 5 days. And that's the rate that we're going at. And that's the rate we've been going at for the last 5 days. It'll be going faster over the next 5 days. So that number is going to jump. But the actual data for 2011 and 2012 was 9,300,000 people contracted the flu. And of that, there were 12,000 deaths. And so that year, in 2011 and 2012, that flu season had a death rate of about what we're looking at for right now in the COVID-19 rate. But in 2017 and 2018, we had 45 million COVID-19 cases in the United States. 45 million. And of that, we had 61,000 deaths. So the worldwide levels of coronavirus deaths roughly equal to our best year in the past decade for flu deaths. But it doesn't even touch our worst year in the last few years. Now, that's worldwide levels compared to US levels of flu. So that really says, like, flu has been devastating in a way we can't anticipate. So I totally get that some people are out there like, flu is an issue that's way more of a problem, except for this is about 5 to 10 days worth of results in the world. Well, I mean, I guess technically, if you count the world totals of who's gotten it and who's died from it, then we've been going at it for about 2 months. Flu season runs about 4 to 5 months total. So, and it peaks and then disappears for the rest of the unstable. Please wait while we try to reconnect. Yeah. So right now, the gap between the two of them still seems like worldwide cases of coronavirus don't even equal a year of flu in the United States. But this isn't slowing down. It's picking up pace. It's doubling how fast it's growing on a regular basis. If you take a look at the way New York City is right now, It's not good. And if that starts happening all over the country, before we hit a point where we can say, like, oh no, like, you can't pretend this is anything like the flu anymore. So yeah, I mean, it's a little frustrating that our state is not taking it seriously. Our government is just kind of ignoring it. I mean, they set up emergency hospitals in the gymnasiums of colleges that are no longer in session. All of those colleges are now online courses only. And so it's just like, but they're not shutting down anything. They're not taking it seriously. And when the government doesn't take it seriously, the population doesn't take it as seriously. They're still out and about doing whatever they want. So I'm going to finish out this week and I think potentially see what happens next week. Because at this rate, it's changing so fast per day that it's entirely possible that by Sunday, the state's going to change its mind. It's probably too late at that point to make a huge impact on things, but yeah, like by Sunday, I get the distinct feeling that there will be a new update as to how we're going to be going forward into the next week. I'm hopeful, at least. I may end up working through next week to see how the situation goes. And if things don't look like people are taking this more seriously and things aren't changing on how the state and the people in the state are behaving, I'm out of working for a week or two and see if that makes a difference. Because I don't really want to keep exposing myself to that. Like, I still have the dregs of whatever I had a week or so ago. And, you know, a long day or a double shift at work can oftentimes leave me feeling very drained. And you can kind of hear it in my voice right now that I'm rumbly. And there are points occasionally on some days I get a point where it's just kind of like, it's that feeling like if you've ever had a heavy cough and you cough a lot over a long period of time and your lungs just burn. I've had a little bit of that. I don't have it as much this week as I had it 2 weeks ago, but yeah, it's just like my landlord thinks I potentially have it, so they're avoiding me. Like, they don't come into this area. They don't knock on my door, and if they want to talk to me, it's like outside in the wind. I'm the wind blowing this way. They're standing over there, and it's 6 feet away. It's very, very, very careful, which I appreciate actually, because they're older. They're friends of mine, and they're both high risk. Not only because of their age, but he has kidney issues and blood sugar issues, and potentially lupus. And she has some autoimmune stuff as well. And they're both over 60. And so it's just sort of like, yeah, you're high risk. I don't want you getting any problems. I don't need that happening. I don't need that on my conscience. But it's everybody trying to be very careful, but it's really hard to go into the retail situation and let people come in and just do what they do in a retail store as if there's nothing to pay attention to. It's stressful on some days. And every now and then I'll have a day where just somebody, like, I start my day and right off the bat, somebody does something like that woman the other day who's to sort through her bills to pay me. And I'm like, no, I am not touching your money. You have licked your fingers and rubbed them against all your bills. How many other stores have you gone into, touched all their stainless steel surfaces where the virus can live for days, licked your fingers to pay with your money, then come over here and do it again? No, we're not playing that game. Do not lick anything, touch as little as possible will wipe down all the surfaces. But like, people just don't get it. And I was just like, I can't keep putting myself in that situation. So unless some of that changes, or the state that issues a stay-at-home order, I'm probably got a job for a week and a half more at that point, and then we'll see where it goes if I take a couple weeks off. It's just stupid. And the other thing I'm aware of, VidCon canceled this year, which I'm glad about, honestly. I was about ready to cancel my ticket. But yeah, VidCon canceled the convention this year. Even though it's out in June, I'm of the definite opinion that come middle of June, we're still going to be in a rough spot. And I don't think that we're going to see we keep having, and I understand why we feel this way. We have this tendency to feel like, oh, it just hold up for a couple of weeks and it'll be over. And it's not going to be over. This is going to be a year like we can't imagine right now. And it feels unreal. There was a part of me going into work today, driving on the road with all the other cars, seeing the people at the gas stations pumping their gas like it was any other Wednesday. There's that want, that kind of, it's not even really a conscious or even a subconscious want. It's just like a tendency to forget that the world isn't the same as it was 3 weeks ago. And it's not going to be the same as it was 3 weeks ago a week from now. It's not going to be that way now. It's not going to be that way in a week. It's not going to be that way in 2 weeks. But we're so used to a pattern that even when it changes for a reason we understand, there's sort of like a instinctive level kind of expectation that it's just going to return to normal at some point. And I don't think we're going to see any of that anytime soon. So I do feel like I'm getting more and more towards the point where I feel like it doesn't matter if I'm doing good where I'm working, where I can benefit the people that come into the store anymore. It feels more and more each day like it's becoming a hazard to me and my customers. Because like my landlord and his wife, they're keeping their distance from me, and they should, because I'm walking out into the public on a regular basis, not knowing if I've been exposed that day or the day before. And so like with a gestation period of upwards of 14 days, like we're not going to know for a week or so if I get something serious from this. 2 weeks out, we're going to see the first inklings that I might get something serious from it. Like, that's a long time frame to not know and potentially be carrying it around. And not only is that the case for me, it's the case for all of my customers. So, like, I get why they want to isolate. It's a good idea. And there's a part of me at this point where, like, I don't know that the trade-off's good anymore. I don't know that I'm being more of a help than I am a risk at this point. So I'm going to see if situation tightens up and, people are more responsible. And as a state government, we have a little bit more responsibility for managing this situation. Because I'm doing my best to make sure that, I'm not coughing on anybody. Nobody's being exposed to my saliva or my breath. I'm not within 6 feet of anybody. I touch as few surfaces as possible, and I decontaminate everything I do touch before and after I touch it. So I'm trying to be very proactive, and I should be a low risk for spreading it, based off of my means of interacting with my environment. But not everybody else is being as responsible. And at a certain point, I'm going to have to make the decision to just say, like, no, I can't keep walking into that world. Because, it's like, I need to stop, quarantine for 2 weeks, and see how that turns out. If I don't have any symptoms by the end of that 2 weeks, we're probably good. And then I can consider about where we are statewide and community-wide after that. But, I mean, it's just stupid that we have to behave this way. This could have been handled so much better by everybody involved. But it is what it is at this point. I did actually see your maps last night. That worked for me. I checked those out. I actually think I downloaded both maps, or maybe one of the maps, and the table of contents that you showed. And it looks interesting. I'm kind of curious to see, like, my usual pattern for that kind of thing is to take something and use it not as intended. So basically push the edges of what one can do with it. So I'd be curious to see what I could do potentially playing with that. I do feel that for certain types of maps, it would be better than my hand-drawn stuff, but I still like my hand-drawn stuff a lot. Oh, a 5-page table of contents? I'd be very curious to see if it'd be kind of interesting to do like, it might be fun to try to do like a space map, but like a interstellar map. And I'd be curious to see if you could use it for mapping pandemic progression. But that's just some of the things that I'm thinking about right now. One of the things, and I want to see if I didn't get that jelly bean video up tonight, and it probably won't go up tomorrow. I don't think. I can try. But at any rate, one of the things that I was thinking of doing was, if I do end up starting to do some quarantine stuff, not just the pen pal videos, but there's sort of like National Novel Writing Month is, you try to write a novel in a month. Start of November all the way to the end of November, you try to write 50,000 words. And then there's Inktober, which is starting in October, you try to do an ink drawing every day. And I feel like I kind of want to start a challenge of some kind like that right now. And I also have been debating, if I'm going to be at home for 2 weeks at some point in the near future, how stupid do I want to be? Do I want to do a 2-week eating nothing but mini donuts, like I had talked about before? Like, I don't want to do candy bars because candy bars are too sickly sweet for me, so I think I'll skip that. But like the donut thing, I think could be kind of funny. It could be a fun gimmick to do. It wouldn't be hard to get a supply of those donuts. And then I've been also thinking about doing a series of videos about learning a new skill or doing a new thing, like learn to juggle, learn to play the guitar. Like, see if, like, how many hours does it take to get to a point where you can at least do 5 tricks or 5 songs or something like that. And that's sort of like learning a skill. I also wanted to potentially do something along the lines of, I've got a list of online classes that I can take. And I just kind of want to say, like, if I devote myself to getting through those online classes as a portion of, like, if I take 2 weeks off, as a portion of that 2 weeks, how much of that classwork can I get done in that 2 weeks? So it's sort of a lot of options on my possibilities list. And I'm I I kind of want to do that. I'm already at the point where like I'm kind of done with being at work and putting myself in that position right now. It's no long I'm no longer having those DeviantArt was the link I linked on my discussion page here, and it's the Roving Jack account on DeviantArt. I only have the Roving Jack account for DeviantArt. Is there an inspired content on DeviantArt? Now I'm curious. Who's using my name? DeviantArt. Because when I chose inspired content, I thought it was a fairly unique term. Okay, let's see. Inspired. I might have started another account at one point. Questionable content comes up. I did not see inspired content. Yeah, I don't see anything for inspired content. So did you find a user under that name? Because I see questionable content. And that's actually a webcomic I do actually read. Good Lord. So many inappropriate pictures on there. All right, so yeah, Roving Jack is the one I have on inspired content, or on yeah, and so you can see some of the stuff that I did over a while. What else do I got in here? I haven't looked far back on that in a long while. What else? Oh, yeah. Oh, there's not some great pictures on here. My outfit, yeah, that's a great outfit. I should pull that out sometime again. Yeah, I made some jewelries for a convention a few years ago. Some of my paintings, a balloon zeppelin made out of inflatable, like balloon animal zeppelin. Some of my watercolor paintings, a lamp I made from scratch, spice rack, a mechanical bank is what the frog thing is, a children's puzzle. I did really enjoy making the copper origami, where I took some copper flashing and folded them into bugs. People loved that. It's not cost effective. And by that I mean, like, I was charging like $6 or $7 per praying mantis or something like that. To ship them to somebody, if they ordered them from me, cost more than the item. And in that case, you're paying like $30 for a copper origami, which I don't think is reasonable. Maybe I'm just too stingy. But oh yeah, my pine cone pangolin / squid. It was a fun little project. A much younger me. That's a long time ago. Some of my hand-drawn mazes. One of the maps I made for the that one, the Jar of Refuge, was a map I made for one of the cartographer guilds. The Jar of Refuge was a project that was supposed to be, I forget what it was. It was supposed to be a challenge to, I think, make a map of a hidden place or something like that, or make a map of a refuge of some kind. And so I hatched on the idea of making a genie's lamp or a genie's bottle and mapping that out. And it's a little rough. I like the designs around the edges of it. looking at the interior, it's not the best thing I've ever done. How long ago was that? Goodness, that was a long time ago. That was 2009. So that was 11 years ago. That was quite a while. My ray gun props and Goober from Nice to Meet You. And then the bottom one, the last one on my list, I think, is City Beneath the Eastern Mount. And that is another challenge for the Cartographers Guild that I did back then, based off of a style of map that you see in Asia more than you see in the, it's called a bird's eye view map. You saw them a lot more in Eastern style than Western. Yeah, I had some fun with some of that stuff. A couple of pieces of poetry, some stuffed animals. There's a clock in there, a couple clocks in there. Oh, there's one of my other maps too. Map making. That is very rough compared to what I would do now, but they're kind of neat still. How big, can I zoom in on that? No, the image quality is not the best on those. I admit that. Oh, and some of those pieces of those little jars with little things inside, those are folded mini origami pieces. I fold mini origami and fit them inside these little Next bottles. You might be looking at my, let's see, Roving Jack, hop back out. The first one is Mars, and then some vehicles might be, no, different page, I think. My favorites might include some of that. So like these things are some of my favorites that I've marked. But there's somebody else's artwork that I favorited. Let's see, let's try something. No, I am the one who shows up when I put in Roving Jack. Do you have a space in it? Does that make a difference? It's all one word. So let's see. Does that change anything? Ah. So there is somebody else using Mr. Jack with Rove. As it's a rover. Okay, I get you there. So no, what you're looking for is my page would be I am Roving Jack. Going to be the things you're going to see at the top. So it should be accessible just by putting in Roving Jack, all one word. So when I punch that into the DeviantArt search, it should bring up some of my works. The first one, I believe, is a piece of origami or origami instruction, and then one of my pixel art books. Yeah, Roving Jack, ROVINGJACK, all one word. And it should pull up some of my images. If you click one of them, it should take you to a bigger picture of it. And then underneath of it, it'll be the name of the piece, by Roving Jack. If you click the buy name underneath of it, it'll take you to my page. That's why when I linked to it yesterday on YouTube, I linked directly to my account, so you didn't have to go through all the jumping hoops, but it works. It doesn't matter either way. You should be able to get there. Yeah, no, I don't have anything of the quality of that rover painting that somebody else did. Most of my stuff is, some of the newer stuff I think is the artwork we did this past year. And then prior to that, the last time I had an update in here was the pumpkin spice crispy treats and the gingerbread spice crispy treats. And a costume, a Minions costume that I wore for Halloween. Yeah. And then, yeah, some of that is just, it's so long ago, I feel kind of doofy about it. Let's see, those are all the featured pieces. What else do I got in the scraps pieces? Oh, a picture of my Halloween costume for 2015 as Doc Brown from Back to the Future. And some prototypes for a pair of posable underarm auxiliary arms that I could use to hold projects while I'm working on them. And a glitter gun? I remember that. None your biz. Okay, and then, oh, there was a project that this is in the scraps folder. Up on the left-hand side underneath the name is featured, all, and scraps. And in the scraps folder, I've got some weird projects that I did. I took brass washers and I took a pipe clamp with a bolt that I could screw into it inside out and screwed that down to deform the washers into a slightly domed shape. And then I took those domed brass washers and used a saltwater etching to etch a pattern into their surface. No, that was one of my housemates had it. It's not actually a DeLorean. It's a Bricklin. It's the Canadian equivalent of yeah, I believe it's the Canadian equivalent of the DeLorean. It actually predates the DeLorean by, I think, a decade. But he had one of these cars, and it was an interesting thing to learn about. Bricklin had all the same problems that the DeLorean had, except for theirs was heavy as a brick. Bricklin's were brutally heavy. It had a pneumatic assist on the door opening. His was broken, and so lifting that door was like moving a refrigerator. Those cars are heavy as sin. They are brutal to move anything with. Yeah, so the brass washers I made some jewelry out of. And some of the setup I used for that was the saltwater etching, which is below it. I made a pattern template for a flippable wallet. Some printouts for a panel I did on historical alchemy. And what else do I got in here? There's some weirds. Oh, a prototype design I made for somebody who wanted to make a pair of steampunk fairy wings. Clockwork fairy flapping wings. Wings that would actually flap and be fairy wings. I thought that was fun. My typewriter, an old clock, and working on some logos and badges for some groups I belonged to at the time. Artwork that I did, I've not been tending to it very well. It's a lot of outdated stuff. Like some of those, like what did I call it? Cuttlefish. That one's felted wool. I knit that and felted it together. I carved the wands, did some wood burning for it. That's soap that I made there as fragrance, soap and lip balm. I think that one was fragranced as a chocolate fudge. I made, yeah, I had a very crappy camera at the time, so none of these shots are very good. The thing that looks like a ball on a stand, that's actually a spherical clock that I made. It's a clock that has hands that move around the face of the sphere. I kind of loved those a little bit, and I used a similar sphere to make a clutch purse for somebody. Oh, shiny mud balls, the Dodorangos or whatever they call them. Stained glass, some pottery that I made, chalk paintings. Oh, there's the nifty stuff down at the bottom near the hand-drawn mazes. You can kind of see some of my cartography stuff underneath of it. I made a nice arrangement with a tray with a bronze owl holding a calligraphy pen. Underneath of it are 2 maps that I made for other people. And my hand-drawn mazes. I do kind of love doing those mazes. And like, I consider doing those mazes and to a certain degree doing some of the origami stuff to be almost like meditation for me. So it would be fun. And then underneath some of that, down as we get towards the bottom, are my prop ray guns. The Chinese, the Oriental inspired map is the last one in the art gallery, the featured gallery. So it's a watercolor that I made of a Oriental city. And my ray guns, right next to my ray guns is the jar of refuge, which I like the way I did the border on it. Not a huge fan of the actual, well, I like the exterior of the jar and the smaller interior. Not really big on the stretched interior, like the panoramic interior. I'm not really big on that one. I think I did that to myself, and I realized once I had done it, that it was not the right way to go, but it was sort of too late to change my mind on that. And the reason I don't like that design is when you have a cylindrical or ovate object, an egg-shaped object, mapping the interior of it is going to cause distortions in the dimensions to lay it flat 2-dimensionally into a rectangle. And so it makes everything else look weirdly distorted. And it's a hard way to do a map. So if I were to do that again, I would probably cut it into quarters and just do straight on perspectives for each quarter. But yeah, it's weird. It's weird looking back through some of those projects. So yeah, I mean, there's some things I'd like to do. Oh wow, we're approaching another hour. Golly, you get me talking sometimes, man, and I could just go forever. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Alrighty, so I'm going to hop off here tonight, try to take care of a few things because I got a double shift tomorrow, and I will catch you after that. I'm probably going to be a little frazzled and not have done much other than work. But if I remember, I'll try to talk about some of my fascination with work. If there's more to do, yeah, maybe. I think for me, I have mine to set up to automatically show me the whole page. So I don't know what yours looks like on your screen. It's possible that you're only seeing the first part of it. You can look through it or not. I can't say as like I consider any of it things I'm proud of, My watercolor paintings are things I did. Those two watercolors, there should be a sailboat on a lake and some musical stuff on a rumpled plaid background. Those are two watercolors I did back when I was in high school. And those I'm kind of proud of because they actually look like professional art. The rest of what's on my DeviantArt page is mostly me just goofing around, honestly. I have never posted anything that I worked seriously on as a full-on, like the ones we did this last year, those were, again, just me experimenting. And I don't think I ever did a full-on straight look at them. Most of them are works around stuff I like to do for just making the artwork. But as it stands, I'm going to head out for tonight. I will catch you tomorrow, and I will figure out what it is I'm covering tomorrow. Until then, take care and have a good night. I still need to make a copy and paste of that. I should just do that after I do this. Have a good night. And stay safe, stay sanitary. Yep. Now I'm going to make a copy so I can say it tomorrow. Easier. There we go. Ha ha ha. All right. End stream.